everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, just filling in, we are about helping buyers, sellers, and investors build wealth for themselves and their family to the future. Today, we're going to break down what it could look like for you if you bought one investment property and how this can affect your child's future education in terms of using that money to go through university, a future house, and get them started in the real world. And you can do all of this without touching a savings account. All right, step one here. So how are we gonna get the money? Where are we coming up with it? How are we gonna fund this property? So let's say you own a property right now. Maybe you've been there for 2 years, 3 years, or you're thinking of buying that property you're gonna be in for the next 5 to 10 years. First step we're gonna do is once we buy the property, there's two options for us. When your term is coming up for a refinance, whether it be 3 years, 5 years, we're actually not gonna just redo our mortgage and go for it. We're gonna refinance our personal property and go back up. So if I take a basic property that you buy for $1 million, whether it be a 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom property, you put down about 100 grand. So I'm not even saying you're putting 20% down. We're gonna use some real basic math. So that's gonna bring our mortgage to around 920, 930. After about 5 years, you're gonna pay down about 80 to 90 grand. Let's just say you wanna put in 20 grand of savings, 30 grand of savings. So you're gonna be working with about 100 to 130K. What you're gonna do, you're gonna refinance the property back to your original mortgage. This is gonna free up some cash and some capital because your mortgage on your property hopefully will be appreciating over the 5 years. You're gonna have a nice gap. If not, you do have savings set aside, 100 to 150 is the magic number to make this happen. You can also use the down payment from a line of credit. Let's say you've been in your property for 8, 9 years and you've built up some money. What we're going to be looking for if we're doing a line of credit, we're going to be offsetting how much that monthly cost is going to be with the property we're going to look for. So again, we're trying to make the payments work so that you're going to be breaking even, if not a very small negative cash flow, because again, we're not buying the property to make money in 5 years, 10 years. We're doing this so when our kids are ready to go to school, when we're 18, they're 18, you're going to see that now we can refinance, use cash flow, sell the property. There's so many other avenues of options you have without having to worry about stressing and saving and putting away $400, $500 every month for their education in 15 years. So what am I looking for? Where am I looking? How do I do it? Rule of thumb number one, you want to keep the property within 45 minutes of where you live. I find if you're going over an hour away, if something goes wrong or things are going to happen, it's just getting tough and tricky, and usually your contacts are going to be a little further out when it's more than an hour. Now, do you want a condo, a single family, a duplex, a triplex? This is going to be dependent on how much time you have and how much you want to invest in the property. Our strategy that we do with a lot of our clients is we go for duplex, triplex, or we try to get into the multifamily pending the budget. If we're going to use our numbers that we did at the beginning of this video, we're going to use about 100 to 150K. That's going to put our budget between 6 to 650 with 20% down because you are in a personal home, so we do need 20% down to make this happen. Now, keep in mind, there's going to be closing costs, land transfer fee, lawyer fee, and there's also going to be the vacancy time where you're going to have that property sit vacant for at least a month to 2 months, depending on the rental market at the time. So we always budget for the cost of at least 3 months. And if you're really risk adverse, then you can go a little bit further. Or if you're a little bit more less risk involved, then I usually recommend have 6 months of your mortgage payment in an account that property is going to be pulling from, and then leave it. That's going to be your emergency fund. If the tenants don't pay, there's always going to be issues and problems. We're not going to sugarcoat it. So again, we want to just have those things ready on reserve. So if something goes wrong, we're okay and we're not in trouble. What we're going to recommend and what we're going to show you on the next little bit here is I'm going to go through a duplex property with you. I like duplexes, triplexes, multi because when the tenant leaves, you still are getting money from somebody else and your returns are going to be higher. Remember, we're looking for a property that's going to be giving us good returns in 10, 15 years. So we want to maximize how much rent we're going to get. A single family condo rental right now, if you're looking in the GTA, Mississauga, Toronto, it's only going to rent for about $2,200 to $2,400. So again, in 15 years, even at a moderate appreciation of say 10% every 5 years, you're not going to be that much higher in terms of rental rate versus that duplex that might be bringing $4,000 today, might be bringing you $5,000, $5,500 in 15 years. So again, we're looking for those because eventually you're going to have that mortgage pay down start to really work for you and you're going to be cash flow positive. Our goal is obviously to pay down that property so that when the kids are ready to go to school, each year they're there, you can either use the cash flow to fund it or refinance, line of credit, and that whole 4-year tuition will be paid for. That is our ultimate goal with the property. Eventually you move it down there, you might sell it, give it to your kids, whatever you want to do for it. After about 15 years is the sweet spot. You're going to have a lot of options with that property. So we're going to go through and dive right into this property right here. All right, we're here. Finally, at the moment, let's break down this property. Okay, so right here, I'm just using a property that's for sale on the market. It's a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom. It has a duplex potential, so it has upstairs and bottom unit. So on average right now, this is a property in Hamilton that we're going to look at. This one here, you're going to get about $2,000 to $2,200 for rent upstairs, and in the basement, $1,500 to $1,650. I always take the numbers off low numbers because I would rather worry about what could happen if someone's not coming in and worst case scenarios. Now, why I like this property, if you're looking for a property yourself and you're looking long term, if you're going to go completely turnkey, you want to make sure that you're getting market rent from day one, or you're looking for properties that are vacant. You don't want to assume a tenant that's already going to be there paying a low market rent because A, you're not going to be able to get rid of them. Number two, if they're paying that low rent, you only have about a 2.5% gap to jump it up. And if they've been there for 5, 8, 9 years, the odds of them leaving are pretty low. Now, it could have some stability, sure, but if interest rates change, something goes up or down, your numbers are going to be changed. So again, we're not really going to go into too much about the mortgage side of things, but for a little tip, when it comes to investment properties, I go fixed rate on them because I like to know exactly what my hard costs are going to be for the next 3 or 5 year term, so I don't need to worry about things shifting or changing. I know my numbers from day one, and unless rent goes up, they don't really change that much. So we're going to break this one here down. What we're looking at here is about a $650 purchase price. So you're going to need 20% down, so it's going to bring you to about just over $120K. Now with closing costs, you're going to have land transfer fee, carrying costs, and a lawyer fee. So roughly, let's call closing costs about $20K. I overinflate my costs on purpose because if we got some leftover money, great, we didn't have to use it. So what we're going to break down, and this property here is vacant. So why we like this one, it's got parking, so upstairs and downstairs, 2 parking spots. Again, you're going to get higher rent if the properties have parking. It's a 1.5 story, so big gap between the basement and the upstairs when you're talking sleeping. Little things to consider when looking at properties as well. This one here, if we use $2,000 as rent and we use the basement at $1,500, which are both on the lower side, but we're going to use those numbers for this example, you're going to be getting about $3,500 in rent. Now, if we break it down from a $650 purchase price, and again, there's some wiggle room. This property here has been on for about 30 days. Market value, I'd say, is between $6 and $630. Let's say we bought it for full price at $650. That's going to run us to about $3,300 or so when I put in the property taxes, insurance on the property, and again, you're going to put the utilities on the tenant, probably do a split 60-40, 70-30, depending on who's upstairs and downstairs. So you're going to take those expenses off yourself. One thing to keep in mind as a maintenance guide through this, you're usually going to be the one taking the bills each month and then telling the tenants what they owe you for the previous month. Just something to keep in mind. These properties are not completely turnkey. If you'd like to not worry about the headaches, you can get a property manager as well. So what we're going to break down here, your costs are around $3,400. If you get $2,000 upstairs and then downstairs $1,500, we're talking about $3,500 in rent. Pretty good investment considering you're going to actually be cash flow positive about $200. So even if you're breaking even, that's not the biggest deal because again, your principal pay down on this type of a property and mortgage is about $700 of that payment per month. That's going to bring us to about an $8,400 per year on just principal pay down. Keep in mind, I don't like to consider any appreciation in this. So if I'm getting about $8,000 per year plus $200, $2,400, not bad at $10,400. I'm investing about $130K, just about an 8% or so ROI on my investment. If that property even appreciates at 2%, right? Keep that in mind. It's not 2% of the $120,000 you're investing. It's 2% of the $650 purchase price, right? So that, again, that's an extra $12,000 per year. Compounded over 5 years, you're talking about $60,000 plus the additional $10,000 in the principal pay down that you're working on. You're bringing about $100,000 to $110,000 if the rents don't change, nothing changes over 5 years. That's 5. Now, why we're breaking down this example is because, A, after 5 years, you're going to have principal pay down. It's gone up. So what do you want to do? Do you want to refinance or you just leave it and let it roll? If you leave it and let it roll, now your mortgage is going down again. Maybe the rents, or you had some tenant turnover, so your rents are going to increase a little bit. Flip it over again 5 years later. If we're using the exact same numbers, right, and we're building about $100,000 every 5 years, right? 5 years later is another $100,000. 5 years later, we're at 15 years. Your son or daughter is now getting ready to go to university in a year or two. Well, what can we do? Right off the bat, 15 years later, you can do a line of credit because you're going to be positive cash flow, some more money. So that line of credit now is going to be being paid from the cash flow. If you took a line of credit to pay for this property, right, after the first 5 years, we see how much can we refinance. Maybe we refinance a little bit to chip down on that line of credit, or we wait the 10 years, and that 10 years now we pay off our line of credit. Fast forward 5 years later when they're ready to go to school, you have another option to refinance to pay for the 4 years, right? Keep in mind, a university tuition is going to be about 4 to 5 years. That's literally one mortgage term. So while they're at school and your mortgage term's running, you are coming into that same scenario after 5 years, you're going to have that availability to refinance and pay off the whole school. This is an opportunity to get into the market to show you what one property can do. You don't need to overcomplicate it and have 2, 3, 4 properties. You own your personal. It's a small little delay of gratification from that bigger future home. But by having this property and your personal building equity, overall, you're going to have lots of options in 10, 15 years. If this sounds like something that you want to set up for your family and start thinking about today, there's a Calendly link right below. Hit it. Click it. We'll book a free call. We'll sit down, go over a consultation with you, and see if this can start your generational wealth building for your family. If you like this video, hit subscribe below. Like the video. Appreciate the support. We're going to have lots of more tips, tricks, different real estate investing methods for you throughout this channel. Follow along.